Hello, I'm Kendra Lauer, and today I'm going to be talking about dealing with the elderly and disaster. Now, Hurricane Katrina gave us a good example of the fact that we really need to help the elderly. In the 1,330 deaths from Hurricane Katrina, nearly half of the victims were over 75 years old, and that's a problem. Many of these deaths may have been prevented with proper measures beforehand. So, for example, there's this nursing home and called St. Regis near New Orleans. And over 30 people in there died because their caregivers just left them and they were unable to move and the flood waters came. So I think that's just something we need to look at and just make sure that does not happen ever again. There are four factors that have an impact on the elderly. Number one is mobility and functional limitations. So a lot of times they might be in wheelchairs or canes and they can't just get in a car and drive off. They may need an ambulance to transport them or another different way. The next is cognitive impairment. So sometimes they're going to have Alzheimer's or be senile, and it's going to be hard to get across that there's a disaster and things to do. So we need to think about that also. And also, some of the elderly may not want to leave their homes. They feel like they've been living there all their lives and they are safe or secure. The next is high turnover rates of medical staff, which leads to obviously lack of training and education in dealing with the elderly in a disaster. So, not just medical staff, but caregivers of the elderly and the elderly themselves. So, I think it's just a big thing to deal with. There are many ways emergency management can help prepare the elderly and their caretakers in the event of a disaster. First off, close the gaps with nursing home emergency preparedness. So whether it's making stricter requirements and establishing procedures for disasters is necessary. Make sure also that the elderly living alone are educated on what to do when a disaster strikes. And make sure to check their homes. So whether it's have a list of people who are vulnerable and check their homes first when a disaster happens to make sure that they left or they may not have left. Then make sure the plans are in place for elderly transportation because like I said before that there may be people in wheelchairs or canes and we need to think about that. And then provide suitable accommodations for elders at shelters because they have different needs than younger folks and they may need a quieter area. The objectives we're going to be talking about are problems in dealing with the elderly in disasters and then ways emergency management can help the elderly. So in review, we dealt with the problems that come with dealing with the elderly and ways the government and emergency management can help deal with those problems with planning and preparation. I'm Kendra Lauer and thank you for listening.